Okay, this special city council meeting workshop is called to order. Public comments. Phyllis, you want to do this up here, or you want to do this in city council?
Whatever that's all right. I don't have, I'll be in either place.
Okay. Why don't you grab a seat right up here for, and we'll do you right here.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to get stopped, kind of bounce off of it, Just sit there with us.
This is Phyllis Johnston. She's here for the rental agreement with the Girl Scout cabin. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Okay. As he mentioned, my name is Phyllis Johnston, and I'm the new president of the Territorial Squares Square Dance Club, and we rent the Girl Scout cabin on North Pine, and we love it. It's wonderful. Square dancing is a great, active, clean, fun for families, and we just enjoy it. We've had a little bit of a miscommunication with our person.
I want to stop you. This is kind of going what I advised the council that we
city
really
council?
shouldn't do in workshop. And I hate to do that, but this really is, it's an agenda item. Wasn't specifically set on this agenda to talk about, and I really think we ought to talk about it
Down in council?
in the council meeting.
If you don't mind, 7 o'clock downstairs.
I don't mind at all.
All right. Thanks, Phyllis.
You're very welcome.
Sorry, Mayor.
Okay, number 3, discussion regarding use of volunteers for fire and EMS department.
Do you want to have him do the
Annual
annual thing first, and then, so he can just sit there and do it all?
Do the annual first, yeah.
Council, it's my turn to give you the wonderful annual update for our department. Not a whole lot has changed other than some of our employee status, but a couple little issues that I wanted to cover on here.
They've got it, we'll just keep moving.
On the first slide, our jurisdiction has not changed, but something to kind of take note of under the EMS side is our response area is over 450 square miles for the ambulance, and we only receive property tax funding for about a third of that. The Finance Committee discussed this at length last spring. It was still cold outside. The decision was made with the Finance Committee that we needed to basically discuss it with the commissioners a little bit more. There's only certain ways that allow the law to make changes to an EMS district, and they're very strict on how they can be created by geographical boundaries. One is by school district, which is what we have currently for the Guthrie School District. Everybody pays 3 mills that goes towards EMS. Crescent School District has the same, Cashin School District has the same. You've got the Mulhall Orlando School District, the Edmond School District, Luther School District, Coyle, anybody else's school district that touches parts of Logan County that pays nothing for ambulance. So basically in our jurisdiction, you've got a third of the property owners footing the bill along with the second for the rest of the property owners out there. What we had talked to the commissioners about was taking a ballot question to the voters, creating a county-wide EMS district, and then divvying the funding up amongst the 3 services that cover the county. They chose, the chairman of the commissioners chose not to do anything with it. Said he hadn't heard any complaints from citizens, so he wanted them to basically push the issue. We discussed it at length. We can give notice to the state health department, on X date, this is our district. That used to not be the law. The law used to be closest unit was bound to respond. It didn't matter. That changed in 2010. Therefore, we can give notice to the state board or the state health department and say, I'll just throw it out there, December 1st. This is our district, that's all we're doing. We'll continue to honor our mutual aid agreements with our partners, but this is our primary district. We discussed about waiting until the new commissioner took office in January to make any notifications to the county on any changes we might want to make. Give them a little bit of time to make necessary budget considerations for their next fiscal year in case they want to try to do something. And give them adequate time to put a question to the voters if they choose to do so. I think we discussed July 1st because they do the July 1 fiscal year. So as of now, that's kind of still the plan as far as I know. Once Commissioner Goodman takes office in January, we meet with them and put them on notice, for lack of a better term. We'll also have to make notification to the town of Will, the town of Langston, the town of Mulhall, because they, as a city, are responsible for EMS in their town limits. So
Now, you still respond to them, correct?
we do right now, yes. Yeah, and will until we make any formal
We don't get
changes.
paid for that.
Yeah. On to our employees in the next slide. As of current, we still have 3 shifts, and we're currently still at 8 personnel per shift, but with the budgets you guys approved, you allowed us to hire 1 more paramedic, which is our goal, to hire 1 more paramedic for each shift. We're doing interviews next Wednesday, Thursday. We'll have them on staff sometime mid-November. Have 1 battalion chief serving as a shift commander, working a 24-hour shift rotation. And currently, we have a 6-man minimum per shift that allows for folks to be off for their annual leave, vacation, sick leave, and training and stuff. I'm the lone 8 to 5 administrative person. And then the next slide gives you the way each of our shifts is laid out. And it's 1 battalion chief, 2 captains, 1 lieutenant, and 4 firefighters, with 1 of those firefighters on each shift currently being a licensed paramedic, and that'll go up to 5 once we get these new folks on shift. 1 shift is short a lieutenant right now, but they still have their manpower. They just don't have that rank filled at this time. 2013 calendar year call statistics: 2,680 medical-related responses, 152 motor vehicle accidents or rescue-related responses, 153 various fire-related responses, 31 hazardous materials or hazardous condition responses, which includes fuel or chemical spills, power line issues, or gas leaks, stuff of that nature. And 97 good intent or false alarm service calls, and those could include a simple lift assist where we go and lift somebody up that's fallen, that doesn't have a medical injury but just needs help getting back up. Putting in a smoke alarm for somebody that can't do so, or stuff of that nature. We're in 1 station, which is down at 209 East Springer. And our current apparatus roster includes 2 engines, a 65-foot ladder truck, 3 brush trucks, 1 light rescue vehicle, a Polaris ATV, a tanker that just hauls water, 4 ambulances, 2 command vehicles, 2 utility staff vehicles, 1 rescue boat, and 1 special operations rescue trailer. Next page gives you a little bit more in-depth roster of our vehicles. Our 4 ambulances, 1 of those which is on agenda tonight to ask for replacement. Our 2 engines, which are a 91 and a 2001. Our ladder truck, which is a 1991 model. All the ambulances, by the way, are funded through a reimbursement agreement with our EMS board. No city funds are expended unless they're special allocations. I think the last one we had insurance money that went towards part of that. Our brush trucks, we have 3 of those currently, with a 4th one under construction. Our rescue, and then our tanker, our 2 staff utility vehicles, and our 2 command units, 1 of those being my vehicle, the other one being assigned to our battalion chiefs. And then our Polaris, which was funded partially through county funds and a grant from one of the tobacco companies, I believe.
Now, the ambulance, is it from us or is it from the EMS district that we're talking about tonight?
We purchase it, it's our property, but once we purchase it, they reimburse us for that cost.
Right.
The one we bought last year, we're doing on a lease purchase, and we pay the lease purchase, send them.
So it's going to be the same kind as that last one?
Yes.
Dodge with it?
Yeah,
Right.
virtual twin. We're making a few mechanical changes to it. Some options we found that have came about since we bought the last one that'll hold up a little better with the rear suspension. The rough roads around here kill them pretty quick, definitely.
You got rough roads, really?
Any questions for the chief on the EMS department?
I'll jump over to something else. Are we going to ever get rid of our ladder truck and get you guys a real?
No.
I know it costs money, I know that.
If we were to go new, sir, we're looking at 900,000, and that's bare
Say $1
bones.
million.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's used ones out there, but you're still talking
Lot of money.
600,000, 500,000. It's just, and then you don't know what you're getting sometimes, so.
Yeah, that's like a bad thing. That's the reason why we're going to
Yeah.
get something. You get a new one.
It's running today, and it's working, so.
As long as you can. I know it doesn't reach.
Just like a lot of our equipment, it's working today, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and hold our mouth just right.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, anything else on the EMS department? All right, time to move to the good one. Regarding use of volunteers for the fire EMS department. Don't pull your gun out.
I didn't really know how you guys wanted to structure this. I made some notes myself that me and Serena went over this morning, but I didn't know if you guys just had questions about it, or you just wanted to hear what our current status was on.
Why don't we do it? Let's start with that question. Why don't we do it?
Let's go through all the facts now.
Okay.
Let's,
One,
and then
they've
maybe-
never had them here, and I think it's just never really went that direction. The biggest thing by far is running the ambulance. We're very unique in the fact that there's not that many in the state that run a fire-based ambulance service. That's probably, if we had solely fire and no ambulance, they would have had them a long time ago. I think anybody around here would agree with that. But the uniqueness of running the ambulance, are certain requirements that have to be met as far as training and stuff of that nature. It makes it a little more difficult.
So if you have volunteers who could follow that level of training?
Then we could use them.
You want to go through that?
Sure, yeah. Health department policy from the state dictates that we have to have at least a minimum. It used to be EMT basic, now they just call it EMT, but to even drive an ambulance, you have to be licensed at that level. That's a lot of training for somebody that has a normal job, family commitments, and so on. There's many of our volunteer departments around us, around Guthrie, that allow folks that live in Guthrie to volunteer with them, and they're not even able to pull volunteers. I mean, the National Volunteer Fire Council stats just show volunteerism is down exponentially nationwide, and a lot of it is due to, there's a lot more family commitments and extracurricular commitments that people have, but a lot of it's the unwillingness of employers to let their folks go during work hours, which is when we really need the help, is during the day. Perry runs the ambulance service out of their fire department, but they're in a very unique situation if they have Ditch Witch. Every one of their volunteers works at Ditch Witch. They let them leave on the clock, keep them on the clock to go fight fire. And they honor that for any of their volunteers. We have Meridian, their fire chief's wife, who's a volunteer firefighter, works at Ditch Witch. They let her leave. Orlando's chief works at Ditch Witch. They leave, they're still on the clock, they pay them while they're gone. We have no real industry in town that has a large concentration of employees that, might help us out there. But, we just might have some issues getting folks, is one of the fears I have. EMS is our prime generator of overtime. If we didn't have the ambulance, we would probably have almost no overtime at all unless we had big fires, which, they do happen, but not very often.
All right, so that being said, how much of it is not in our EMS district? Do you know that, rough guess?
What do you mean, Art?
When we run the ambulance?
Well,
How
our
many times we
biggest,
go
our
out
biggest
east?
overtime generator is transfers. We're talking 2 to 3 a day. And if
Oh,
we're-
okay.
Ambulance transfer.
Yeah, ambulance
Okay,
transfers,
gotcha.
I'm sorry, yes.
Not so much the runs, it's just moving them from one place to another.
Well, we have what's a critical access medical hospital, therefore, they're getting transferred to a higher level of care constantly. And that's, roughly 2 hours out of service by the time the guys leave, go load the patient up, take them to a metro hospital, return to service, get fuel resupply and stuff of that nature. So if we're a minimum manning of 6 folks, that's 2 people out of service for 2 hours, we're down to 4 people. We can't fight a house fire with 2 people. And you guys that live in town or around town, how often we get a second call, then we're down to 2 people. So one of the things we are looking at with hiring this 9th person is we're going to adjust what we do on transfers to keep us at a 5-man minimum during that transfer, so we at least have NFPA required 2 people in, 2 people out if we're on a house fire. So if there's 2 people in the house, we have 2 people outside the house plus somebody operating the truck, and also functioning as an incident commander and safety officer. So that's one of the changes we'll make, and this 9th person should reduce overtime significantly, just because we won't be put in this transfer situation. And if you look at if you went and pulled every one of our payroll sheets and looked at what caused overtime, 95. If EMS didn't cause it, that's what the person coming in is doing, is covering the ambulance while we're out on something else. So one way, shape, or form, EMS is the overtime problem. And I'd be the first one to tell you, I wish we didn't have it because it is a burden, but there's nobody else to do it and do it as well as we can for the cost. I know it was looked at early 2000s, and I mean, IMSA wanted $600,000 for one ambulance to come up here, and we have 4. So, and that was, Randall, you might remember, it's been 10 years ago at least.
That's too long, but it's a lot of money. And
2002, okay.
Wasn't efficient.
12 years ago. And that was what they wanted then. And I know their subsidies from the city of Edmond and everybody else has only increased exponentially since then, so I don't even know what they would want today if you ask them, probably $1 million plus, which is almost our whole EMS budget. So, other thing is, we're blessed in that we have 4 at least volunteer fire departments within 10 minutes of town. And we can have, as far as a large fire, we can have them here in no time. Probably almost in the time it would take for a local volunteer to get to the station, get dressed, and get to the scene. So, and some of that mutual aid is paid. Oak Cliff has paid personnel 24/7 now, so we can have them here in no time, and we do quite often. I knew you guys probably had questions, and I didn't know exactly what all you wanted to cover. I just kind of researched all the fire departments in Oklahoma that ran a fire-based ambulance to kind of get their how they do it and their common practices and what works, what doesn't work. And
but you're saying one of the reasons we're not using volunteers is because they have to be basic EMTs to operate their ambulance, and everybody on your crews right now
we won't even take an application from somebody unless.
So they got to have that before they come in?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So they all.
And with us progressing to the paramedic level, that makes it even more important.
Well, I don't want y'all to think you don't have options.
Sure, and if you guys want to do it, we're more than happy to try it.
What we could do is we could take a look out. We can put our feet out, toes out in the water, and we put together an application. It would require EMT. It would require basic training on a monthly basis. It's not like we're going to put someone on an ambulance that isn't trained. We have to do training during certain times of the day because the union contract doesn't allow certain types of training. I'll say that, one of our other issues on overtime, I don't want to say it's just EMS, one of our issues on overtime is that we also have to give first callbacks to our most tenured officers, which of course is what breaks the bank on that overtime. I've got an employee in the last 2 weeks with 50 hours overtime. I mean, we run significant overtime. We do have an overtime issue. It is partially because of EMS, but it's also the way that we have that structured. If we wanted to, we could put out into the community, have a 10-minute response time, require EMT, require training, and kind of throw out a fish net and see if we capture anybody. We may not. It's highly probable, maybe. I don't know every person in town, and I don't know if there's any. What we do have that you see across the state is people looking for some experience, and they start with that. What I will say, and I will stand by this as long as I'm in this business, I have no intention of taking volunteers and replacing paid professional firefighters with a volunteer. That's never been the intention, and I want to make that very clear that wouldn't be our intention at all. This is to subsidize and hopefully help and assist with some serious overtime costs that we're running into.
Is this an operational question or a policy question?
It's operational, but really, kind of. I come to y'all with this one. One is it was requested by council to workshop it. 2, it's I don't know, maybe I should say it is a policy decision. If you want me to have volunteers, we'll do it. If you don't want me to have volunteers, we won't do it.
So we get like
Sure.
next agenda, have
Sure you could.
it on the agenda?
Sure. And I can get you more information about what it would look
We have
like.
ordinances in the books right now that do
It
allow for
it allows volunteers in your current ordinance. I just don't know if the trigger's been pulled since 1985-ish. So Rob is the history book of the fire department. 80s, maybe, there were volunteers. There were volunteers in the mid-80s.
There were sleepers in the 40s.
Sleepers in the 40s. But I have some people in the community that told me they volunteered in the 80s.
There was a few, but they really were just, it wasn't a role, they weren't in the pension, the requirements weren't different.
Yeah, that was before the
It
statewide.
was just, they came in, if there was big
Right.
fire and there was extra gear, they just put it on and helped, but they.
Right. So not probably what I would consider a true volunteer program.
Nothing
Okay.
formal. And the ordinance is mirrored
Ordinance
off state
allows it
statute
now.
for Title 11. Every city in Oklahoma has it in their book.
Well, that sounds pretty operational then. We already allow it, we just have not.
We just haven't done it.
Done it.
And I bring it to you because it's also just a hot topic in the community. How about this, if you have any concerns, why don't y'all email me directly, give me a call, and let me know how you feel about it.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, thank you, sir. You already did us the other one, so. Okay, number 4, discussion regarding state of the city.
This is the document that we put together for you guys and sent it to you. And there's many communities out there that do an event called a State of the City. And I know that council's kind of talked about it before, and we haven't really pulled the trigger on anything. For example, cities will have like a breakfast or a lunch or a dinner, and they bring shareholders to the table in the community and leadership within the community, and then share with them what accomplishments happened in 2014. So what we did for you today is we put together a video using our staff and try to highlight some of the accomplishments that we did. So we're just going to roll the tape and maybe gather from you guys if y'all want us to put this out in the community, or what you want us to do to show our citizens what we do for them and how much we care.